everyone, it's Misty here, design team member for Stamp Anything. Welcome to another Fannie Friday, yay! Before we get into this video though, I picked the winner of the 700 subscriber giveaway, and this video is making a card for her. So Cindy, if you don't want the card to be spoiled before you get it, now is the time to click out. And then later this week or whatever, I'll post a reel of me putting together her little package. So yeah, okay, let's go back in time to past Misty, and she'll walk you through today's card. Before we get into today's video, I want to issue a spoiler alert from Miss Cindy. Cindy, if you're watching this, this card is coming to you as part of your gift. So if you don't want that spoiled, click off now. Your package will go in the mail this weekend. And then once you get it, if you want to come back and watch how I made it, you'll be good to go. But that's why there's no thumbnail with a picture, because I didn't want to spoil it. So yeah. Okay, so here I am cleaning off my desk, and I wanted to share with you the way that I'm now storing my stamps. This is a CD, DVD binder, and I store them by collection. Okay. So in this video, I am making a Christmas card and I'm going to be doing some heat embossing. So when I am using a brand new stamp, you guys just saw me do it, and I do it all the time, is I take the part that's going to get the ink and I put it on the back of my hand just to take away some of that stickiness. And the main reason I do this is because that way it won't pull up my paper when I stamp. And so I used an anti-static tool. You can use cornstarch, you can use a used dryer sheet. You just need something to remove the static. Then Versamark is a pigment ink. It's a sticky ink. That one's a watermark ink, I guess. But you want something that the embossing powder will stick to. So I suggest Versamark for white and VersaFine for dark. So for black, the reason why I say that is because black gets everywhere. Black embossing powder is really hard to work with. So you can basically do any color of embossing that you want. If you stamp in your Versamark first and then stamp on your ink pad. So if you guys would like to see that, just let me know and I'll walk you through it. I love to heat emboss. I think it's very fun. I know Brennan has done a video or two about heat embossing, so make sure you check those out. So I messed up and I turned the paper over. That's the one thing to remember about paper crafting is you just turn it over. You can turn it over, no big deal. So I turned it over and I've stamped it a few times because I wanted to make sure that all of it was stamped and it was smooth. So this is some white embossing powder, and you just want to make sure everything is coated with this embossing powder. They make all different kinds of embossing powder, and I'm flicking off just a little bit to get the excess off, and then you're going to see me bring in a paintbrush. Now, you can remove the static and still have something that jumps on, whether you want it to or not. So just take a dry paintbrush and just, remove what you can. And like if you can't get all of it, once you've heated it and it's melted, you can just take like a pokey tool or something and kind of scratch it off. So I noticed that I needed a bit more embossing powder, so I put it on there. Next, we're going to heat it with a heat gun. You cannot use a hairdryer for this. You need a heat tool. Now, if you are new to heat embossing, here in the US, you can use a coupon, or could use a coupon on a heat tool at one of the big box stores. So Michael's, Joann's, Hobby Lobby. I would suggest you do that before you invest in a bit more expensive one. Now, this is the one from Stampin' Up. I was a Stampin' Up demonstrator. I've had this now for 5 years, I think. And I love it. I think Marvy makes one, Ranger makes one. But you just need you don't need an industrial strength one, but yeah. Okay. So embossing powder is literally just bits of plastic and some glue. So what you need to do is you need to heat it to melt it. And you can literally see it melt in person. You can't really see it here. But when it becomes shiny, that means it's melted. So if you still see some dull areas on your paper that or on your image, that means you haven't heated it all the way. You can overheat, but I feel like it takes a lot to do that. Okay, so I also stamped them in black because I'm like, okay, how am I going to do this gingerbread? I really wanted them in white so it looked like it was frosted. And I was like, but I don't like the white eye without a black pupil. So I brought in some dots. These dots are from the Magical Celebrations from Stamp Anything. It was a grab and go box. I looked and it's no longer available, but any black dots will do. Later in the video, you're going to see me try to decide if I want to use googly eyes. You could use googly eyes if you wanted to. I just added some black dots. Okay, so I wanted to add some dimension to these images. And this is a great way to add that when you're paper piecing. Like if I had paper pieced her dress from some pattern paper, you can go in with a marker and kind of add some shadows and stuff. This is E33, and E33 was closest to the kind of tone of this paper. And I really, really loved this step. And then I'm going to screw it up because that's what I do. I didn't screw it up. It's just a design choice that if I were to go back, I would not repeat. So I really like the way that looked. Okay, so for Dopey's eyes, I went ahead and colored some pearls using a black Sharpie marker. Any alcohol marker, Ohu, whatever you say, Copic, Spectrum Noir, Sharpies, Bic, any alcohol-based marker you can use to color on pearls, rhinestones, dots, etc. Just let it dry for a couple of minutes and then you're good to go. And it will stay because it's permanent. So I'm going around Dopey. I had a much harder time deciding where I wanted to put his shadows as far as his head and his cute little ears. But I try to make it consistent on both sides. So here's where I kind of messed up, and I'm sad about it, but I did it, and it's done. It's done. Initially, I thought, ooh, wouldn't it be fun to make her bow red and make it look like it was frosted red? And I was like, ooh, let's use this glitter. But I had already put the brown down, and the red over the brown just didn't look good. And I wish I hadn't done this step. Like if I were to remake this card, I wouldn't add any color to her other than the brown, to give her some dimension. Because I don't like the way it looks. So that's just a design choice. Yeah. And you see me using a Q-tip. That Q-tip has alcohol on it. And I use that to clean off the white embossing powder because Copics are alcohol-based markers. It's basically pigment suspended in alcohol. Alcohol is a solvent. So you can use alcohol to clean up Copic. So if you happen to get it on your caps or on your barrels or whatever they're called, like I do, you can just use an alcohol swab or some rubbing alcohol and take it right off. You can use, I think it's 90% alcohol, like as a blender, instead of using a blender pen. So yeah. Another design choice I would do would make this blue instead of pink. But my thought was I wanted to keep it really pastel. And I used the Cloud Builder stencil from Stamp Anything for this and spun sugar. But going back, if I did this again, I would make it blue in the background. All right, so I cut out the door and I cut out the top using some glitter paper. This is Die Cuts with a View. They had a huge 12 by 12 pack on Amazon for like $15. And I like their no shed glitter paper. And I should have done this on adhesive sheet. You're going to see me in just a second get frustrated with myself that I forgot to put it on adhesive sheets because this is the second time that I made this. I initially had made this with the house and everything, got it glued down and realized that I needed to move it over a little bit so the characters would fit. Of course, that didn't work out. So I ended up having to remake the house. So I found some windows in my stash and went ahead and cut those out of the pink. So we have turquoise, we have pink, and this color palette came from those candies. Initially, I thought I was going to use those candies on this card, and I do use a couple of things. These are just die cuts from Doodlebug. You guys, if you know me, if you follow me on my Jolly Fat Elf channel, you know my love and adoration for Doodlebug. Like, Stampy Anything and Doodlebug are probably, hello Bluebird too, are probably some of my most favorite illustrations ever when it comes to stamps, or images, I should say. Doodlebug finally does have stamps. I've begged them for forever. Please, can we please have stamps? But I just love their images. Now, I didn't like that they changed Santa. The original Santa from a few years ago was my favorite. I don't like either of the two iterations that we have had. So I used the circle from the Star Trek release to cut out the glitter paper to make gumballs. And I was like, they seemed a little big. But looking at this now, going back and editing it and seeing it again, I wish I'd used those. So if I had to do it all over again, I would have used those gumballs at the base of the house. So this release was their newest release. I think it's called Gingerbread Lane, Gingerbread Kisses, Gingerbread something. And in it had a bunch of gingerbread cookies. So the wreath, I cut the white out. And the tree, I cut the white off. So the white border, I got smart after doing this and decided to just color the white on the snowman. And then I brought in my Nuvo shimmer pen and it just spilled out. So these snowmen got real wet, really wet. Now I apologize because this is off screen. I didn't realize that I was so zoomed in, but I'm using some texture paste. This is the opaque texture paste. I think it's the Distress one, to add frosting to this. Initially, I was going to use the top layer, but I couldn't get it to look right. And I thought, you know what? I have some texture paste. Let's try that. And oh my gosh, I love this so very much. Now, if you repeat this, because this glitter paper is so slick, it's hard to adhere to. So that's why you'll see me use liquid glue or using some dimensionals that have really strong adhesive on the back because it's hard for it to adhere. So while it's wet, it will move around. So just be cognizant of that because I touched it a couple of times, not meaning to, and removed some of it. Now I use liquid glue so I can move it around, number one. And number two, it was wet and I couldn't put it down to put adhesive on the back. So this measures 4 by 8.5. If you follow me at all, my slimline cards are normally 3.5 by 8.5, just because that just is an easy cut and I like the size. This will still fit in a business size envelope and with room to hang over. So there's a little bit hanging over on the top and there's a little hanging up over the bottom. Top and the side. So I'm adding some more texture paste, this time kind of in front of the house. So this was 2.5 hours of me trying to make this card. And I think an hour and a half of it was me trying to decide what do I want to do with those candies. The rest of it was quick, but I kept going back and forth. I asked Kevin, I asked my husband, I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? And I was like, you know what, Misty, just move on. Just move on. But when I make a card for someone specifically, I want it to be perfect. The problem is I don't craft perfectly. I craft in real life. It's messy. Glue is everywhere. Something's crooked. It's just what happens. It's just what happens. So I'm adhering our little characters with some liquid glue and I'm adhering them flat because there's enough dimension on the gingerbread house. I considered for a second bringing in googly eyes and then I was like, Misty, don't you even dare think about messing with those because I didn't want to mess it up. So I brought in that circle, like I said, to use gumballs and I really do wish I'd gone ahead and used them, but I didn't. So I went ahead and used the Christmas tree and the wreath. Now, these were also both, like I said, these were both die cuts with white borders, and I went ahead and cut them out. But now I wish that I had just left the white and colored around it. And then I just went around the edges with that E33. Get that adhered. And then I'm going to add some of the shimmer pen to those two because everything else has it as well. I'm going to adhere the wreath with some pop dots, squares, foam squares, whatever you want to call them. And yeah, and then I'm going to try to think of a sentiment or decide if I want to put a sentiment on it. Because if you've been with me for any time in my life, I normally don't put sentiments on cards because I tend to make cards that can be used for any occasion. Like this one, this could be a Christmas card. It absolutely could be a Christmas card. It could also be like a winter birthday card. You know what I mean? And so I wasn't initially going to put a sentiment on it, but then I decided I wanted to. So I'm bringing out not 2023, but 2022's Doodlebug paper pad. I think it's called Candy Cane Lane. I think. And they have sentiment strips in them because I didn't want to have to get on the computer and type out a sentiment for one thing. Now, I picked a pink sentiment. I'm like, Missy, what are you doing? Doodle bird. So this is off camera and I apologize, but I'm just cutting out that sentiment from that sheet of paper. But yeah, I just like, Misty, good grief. Sometimes my brain works, sometimes it doesn't. It's the story of my life. Story of my life. So I was trying to decide where I wanted this, and I realized when I put it up top, I'm like, you see, this is too pink to go on pink. It's not going to stand out. So I went ahead and put it at the bottom of their bodies. And then I was like, I had a candy sticker, like a pop dot that looked like a piece of peppermint candy. And I went looking for it and I found it. And that is what I put on the bottom of the card. So thank you for joining me. You have to let me know what you think of this card. And if you, if you liked it. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe. I we'll be back next week with another card. I completely lost my train of thought. Welcome to my brain. So yeah, so no thumbnail with the image because I want Cindy to be surprised if she doesn't want to spoil it. I will film me putting together her little gift if you want to see that and maybe upload it as a reel or something. Okay, that's enough jibber jabber. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. Check out Stamp Club. These will be listed in the description box down below. My social media is listed down below. Stamp Anything social media is listed down below. A direct link to the store, Stamp Club, Stencil Club, all of it. I hope you have a good day, night, week, wherever you are, and I'll see you in my next video or in our next video. Bye for now.